Hey guys, here we are with the Quiggin Out MMA Podcast, episode 9, and I have the honor and privilege of being joined not just by my co-host Nick Ramirez, but by the one and only Burt Watson. How you doing, Burt?
Man, I'm trying to make it, baby. I'm actually quigging out. How you doing?
The man's on the show for 10 seconds and steals my tagline.
Oh, Lord. Nick that. How about that?
Yeah, hey, that's good.
Oh, man. Okay, I stop.
Listen, man, I love it. I do.
You guys caught me on quarantine. I've actually legitimately been in the house 60 days.
Oh,
So,
man.
yeah. I pay attention to things.
Yes.
You know, and I've been through some things, and I know how real things are. You know, and I'm going back beyond Vietnam. You know, and spending some time in the Marine Corps. You know,
Hey, thank you. Love and appreciate your
yeah,
service.
absolutely.
Oh yeah, Semper Fi, man. So you know, I know the realization of things, and you know, people from my era. You know, no disrespect to you, young guys.
No.
But
That's
we
okay.
take things a little more to heart and to ear than the fear of me being invincible and it can't happen to me. So when I've had no reason to go out, I don't. It's a little tough right now because, man, I mean, our MMA world and boxing, you know, it's struggling, man, because there are no events.
Mm-hmm.
And there is nothing on the books at a regional level or anything until, you know, October, November. You know, at the higher level, you know, UFC and Bellator and PFL, when you have major network sponsors or sponsors, you can afford to do a show without fans.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Because you got that TV money. But
Yes.
anything other than that, a regional guy, you know, your money is in the stand.
Yep.
You know, putting booties in the seats. And I'm gonna pretend this is a family show, so I'm not gonna use the word I wanted to use. But putting booties.
You can use whatever
you know,
words you want. I will never censor you.
Putting asses in that seat, baby. That's what it's all about. So it's not easy, or they can't do a show without fans because then they don't make any money. Even though, fortunately, MMA, something like MMA and boxing, you know, and maybe even, you know, when you get to an individual sport, it's not hard to condense your television screen to the action that's going on right there,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
you know, and not pull it out. So they're fortunate in that sense, but you know, it's been trying, and I know the schedules, and I see people's schedules, and there's nothing on the books, man, till October, November.
Yep. That's true.
And that's what's so tough is that, you know, and I have to do this because he asked me to. So Mitchell Chamale was on the show earlier this week, and I've known Mitchell for years. And, you know, when, you know, he put on that show and MMA fighting, I can never take credit for this because pandemic promoting was what they called it. And I know he lost a ton of his own money to do that just to say, I was here, you know, these guys, I told them they were fighting. I told him I was going to get them paid. Let's do it. And even though he won't take credit for it, I think he paved the way for the UFC to use Jacksonville for the first time coming back, because I look back, and I don't know if you can remember all 510 events, but I can't. And
well, 510 events, is that what it is? That up to now?
Yeah.
Wow.
And how many times had they been to Jacksonville before that?
Well, you know, and let me tell you, when their first show that they did in Florida was not, you know, it wasn't a rousing success in terms of the people and the fans. So at that point, they were trying to find spots to go back to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Florida was not one of them.
It wasn't marketable. Yep.
No, not at all. And I know, you know, is it Tim? I know Tim and Patrick Cunningham, Tim Shipman Patrick Cunningham up in the Florida Commission.
Yes.
You know, those guys are good to work with, and they stuck with Mitchell, and you know, they worked it through. You know, even though I can tell you, I'm a coordinator, man. I do that for a living. and I know the lefts, the rights, the in the middles, the in the betweens, the up, the downs, you know, every financial aspect of it that some people have no idea is there. You know, so I know the cost that went into putting something like that on, especially with the cost of testing. And I know the testing that needs to be done, because as quiet as it's kept, I did some coordinating from somebody at a distance. But, you know, so, I mean, guys get tested. You know, you're talking about, I don't know what it may cost right now, but, you know, 2 weeks ago or so, you were talking about $250 per guy.
True.
You know, to be tested. And that's not a little bit of money in the scheme of things when you don't have a television deal. So my hat's off to Mitchell to continue and go on with that, you know, but you know, when you do promoting and you're the type of person that he is, because I've seen promoters dog people. You know, trust me. And I'm saying that without fear. Okay, you know, it was, and let me know when I'm over talking you, baby. It was, it's probably the main reason that I got into coordinating, because I did a fight in California, and I'm gonna be respectful and not mention names.
Okay.
And back then, at the time, fighters, I mean promoters' names of promoters.
Yeah.
Fighters were getting between $50 to $100 a round to fight. Okay,
Jeez.
and that's that was everybody.
Wow.
If you got a 4-round fight, you got $400. Period, and that included per diem and anything else. You just got $400.
Wow.
And I did a fight with somebody in California, and actually I had Joe Frazier had, between his sons and his nephews, he had 7 guys fighting at the same time.
Wow.
To include Marvis Frazier,
Yes.
to include Joe Jr.,
Yes.
Mark, Tyrone Frazier, who fought the guy from South Dakota, I forgot his name, Virgil Hill,
Okay.
Anthony, Rodney Frazier, and Mark. But there was about 6 or 7 of them fighting at a time. So we started doing promotions in Philadelphia, and we had to move around, you know, and because he was Joe Frazier, you know, it wasn't hard to get guys on other cards. So we moved 2 or 3 guys to a fight in California, and because I was there, they used me to help with the coordinating, and I did. And we had this one kid, and the kid was a Mexican kid, but he lived up in the hills of California. And I don't remember exactly where.
Okay.
But he took a 4-round fight at the last minute. And the kid came down there, he fought that 4-round fight, and he fought his ass off. He lost the fight, but he gave them a full 4 rounds.
Yep.
At the end of the night, when that kid went to get his money, the promoter took $270 out for his medicals.
Oh.
And took a $40 out that was paid for the 2-night hotel. Something had to do with the hotel stuff.
That's insane.
So that poor kid had $120 or something like that.
Wow.
And he just looked, he didn't have enough money, he said, to get home and to make it through the next couple of days.
Damn.
So I ran my hand in my pocket, and I think at the time I had about $150. And I said, I ain't going to give it all to you, but I'll give you some of it. So I gave him the 100, I kept the 50.
Yep.
But I made it, and I swore that night that I would never ever let another promoter take advantage of a fighter.
That's awesome.
And
That's
I
incredible.
said, you know what? From this point on, and I say to all the fighters, I can F with you, but I'm not going to let anybody else F with you.
Mm-hmm.
That means commission, promoters, house people, housekeeping people, venue people. I can do it. I'm not going to let anybody else do it. But I made a vow that night to never let it happen to a fighter again. And guess what? I've done the best that I could do to make it happen. Not on my watch. It's always the fighters first for me. Always.
Nice.
And it's always been that way.
Yeah.
I can do it. I won't let anybody else do it. And I can be a little tough on some things, you know.
Okay.
You know.
Not you.
Well, hey, I'm a dad, and I'm also a hood rat from Philly. So there's a lot of things that I know, you know, when guys start to get to going, and I'm like, you know what? Hold up, bro. Wait a minute.
Yep.
You know, I'm gonna work with you, but you can't work against me
Exactly.
because then I got to pull 2 plows, and
Yeah.
I'm only gonna pull 1. So you got to get on here and work with me, and I say that to everybody, one way or another. I will never disrespect you, but you know I'm not gonna let you disrespect me. So I took that vow and always had a good relationship and learned how to work with people. But I learned that in life from my mom, period. You know, but you know, I learned between that and the Marine Corps and everything else, I learned how to work with people, how to work with a group together, and I never had a problem with fighters or anybody. You know, I won't say getting out of line because they got out of line a lot of times. Okay.
That fight is for you.
They did some shit that. But overall, you know, just respect for me and the system and the sport that they did, because a professional athlete to get to that level, and boxing and MMA, man, it takes a lot to get to that level. But I'm gonna let you guys ask questions now.
No, that was wonderful.
That was no offense to anybody else that's been on the show, but that was the best 12 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
It's like you've been doing this before.
But that's, you know what? It's easy. It's easy when it's true and you know it, and you did it. And see, today with social media, you can't lie about nothing.
Nope.
Because they can Google everything.
Yep.
All you got to do is put what color underwear does, and you know what? Boom! It comes up. You can Google anything you want, and you know, I'm technically challenged, but I know that you can, man. So
Yes, true.
you got to be truthful with it, and I am, and it comes from here.
Absolutely.
And I just want to touch on it because you said so much that I'm literally still trying to process everything you just went through. But you mentioned something I did want to
Give me
talk
back
about.
my $100. Okay, I'm done. Go ahead. Wherever you are in this world, if you got that 100, send it back. So go ahead. I'm sorry, man. Go ahead, baby.
Oh man, no! You talked about being a hood rat from Philly, so I wanted to see like where did Burt Watson come from? Like, what was it like growing up, and how did you like you said, obviously there was a lot of respect for mom, and then ending up in the Marine Corps. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, my father is from Jamaica. Partially from Jamaica, and my mother from Charleston, South Carolina.
Gotcha.
But they grew up in the South,
Yeah.
and I grew up basically in the South. I mean, we moved to Philadelphia in 1957 or something like that, But I came from the South to Philadelphia and spent all of my life, because I went through high school and, stuff like that in Philadelphia. And my mom she was not a single mom, but you would have thought she was, because she ran everybody. She ran Dad, she ran us, but she ran it and I watched it, because everything she put out, it turned out later in life. But I went through high school in Philadelphia, and it came time to go to college, and she tried to get me into a couple of the Division I schools in Philly, and some other things, and that didn't happen. But then this little school out in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, sent my mother a letter and said yes, and she came to me and said, "We packing." Yeah, and she wasn't talking about a gun.
No.
So, and I'm talking about in 1967.
Wow.
And now somebody's sitting there with a calculator trying to figure out how old I am. But I ended up in a small school in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, Hiram Scott College, that I went to school. I did about 3 years. And going into my third year, back then, they had the, I forgot what they called it, but the draft system was still there. They could still draft you. But just when they were quitting the draft, they came up with a numerical system that they threw your number in a hat, and whatever number you got, that's how you went in.
Wow.
And I got a 1Y or something like that, but they could pull you out of college or wherever and pull you in. So they did that. I got a draft notice that I was going in the Army, and when we were on break in the quarter, I went home, and I'm sitting, and I've never said this one before, but I went home because I had the draft notice, and I know I had to go, and my mom's thing was, well, you got to do what you got to do. So I'm sitting there. My mom was a nurse. She came home with a book, and it was an Ebony magazine. And I'm looking through Ebony magazine, and there was a brother in a Marine Corps uniform with a white hat doing this.
Wow.
I said, shit.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to look like that.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm going to look like, true story. I saw that on a Friday night. Monday or Tuesday, I was in the Marine Corps recruit depot. I was in the office enlisted in the Marine Corps.
Wow.
And I did. Wow. And I enlisted in the Marine Corps. And when that 2S deferment or whatever that was came back, they somehow, with that Social Security, they knew that I was somewhere in their system. Yep. So they left me alone. So I ended up joining the Marine Corps, man.
Nice.
You know, and that was during the Vietnam era, and I communications was my MOS. You know,
you got
that's what they called it. That was my MOS, and I carried a radio, a Prick 25.
The big bag.
Yeah, man, yeah, and they called it a Prick 25. Yeah, right. But you know, I did communications, you know, and spent most of my time between. I was all out of country. You know, between going there and Okinawa and coming back, and then didn't want to do any stateside duty because I was salty. When you came back from over there, came to Okinawa, you didn't want to come back to the States. So I did a couple of cruises. I did a couple of med cruises, you know, and that's from Florida through the Straits, past the Rock of Gibraltar, and I went to Turkey, Greece. Barcelona, Spain, Naples, Italy. And when you got up to Naples, you turn around. And I did that, and then I did the Caribbean cruise.
The other
so
way.
By the time I was 25, I had been around the world.
Man, who could say that?
Yeah, right.
And yeah, but I had a uniform on and couldn't hardly remember none of it, but I did it. Okay. I knew what it was. I knew what it was to go to Greece and not drink ouzo. You know, I knew what it was to go to Barcelona and get caught in the Canary Islands where you shouldn't have been. You know? I think when I was in Turkey, which I won't say too much about this, but the first time I ever saw debtor's prison.
Wow.
And do you guys know what that is? And that's where if the man of the house owed the government or owed whoever,
they put him in there for the amount of time to pay off that debt.
Right, but they didn't put him in there.
Oh, they put the wife.
Bingo.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I was like, whoa.
That's crazy.
But I saw all of that and saw the world. You know, by the time I got out of the Marine Corps, I had been between bouncing around to different duty stations in the States, you know, Camp Lejeune, Camp Pendleton, NCRD in California, and, you know, 29 stumps.
Yep.
You know, and then doing all the other stuff. By the time I got out, I had been around the world, baby. You know, and it was like, whoa. So that kind of, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I actually, believe it or not, started in high fashion.
Hey.
I went to a school for fashion designing. I learned to do pattern making. I was the only guy, probably now in MMA, that knows how to hand tie a bow tie. And make his socks match the clothes he's got on.
That's what I'm talking
about. I did that and kind of ran around and eventually ran into Joe Frazier, and I'm cutting it, condensing it.
Boom, there you go.
Ran into Joe Frazier, which kind of there was a car accident one day, and he was standing there, and I saw him and knew who he was, and, you know, just figured I'd go speak, and I spoke, and he spoke. And that friendship wasn't a friendship, but it was a connection.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then later on, my niece got married in Philadelphia. Now, the history of Joe Frazier, my niece got married, and as a present, one of my mom's friends gave her a limousine service for her wedding.
Ooh.
Nice.
The history of Joe Frazier is that Joe Frazier owned a limousine service. She had the stories coming together.
Yeah.
True stories on Google. So I don't know if that's on Google or not, but so my niece had the wedding, and I'm in it, you know, and we're sitting there, and my nephew comes in the house and he says, "Uncle Burt, there's a car out there, the limo, and the guy wants you to know he's out there." And I said, "Well, you know, you need to go tell him he needs to park because we're going to be a minute."
Mm-hmm.
So he went on to tell the guy. He came in, he said, "Uncle Burt, you know what? That guy out there looked like Joe Frazier." So I said, "Yeah, okay." Well, I went outside, and it was this white limo with tinted windows. Back then, you could really have tinted windows.
Yeah, you could black them out. Yep.
Yeah. Today, they black them out for you.
Oh, yeah.
But I went down, I knocked on the window, and he rolled the window down, and there he was. Joe Frazier. I'm like, whoa. He was like, whoa. You know? And the thing is, he owned the limousine service, and Joe was a tinkerer. He would tinker with anything. He would take this computer apart and wouldn't know how to put it back together, but he would take it apart. Okay, and he did that with a lot of things.
Yeah.
And that was his personality. So back in the day, they were using clipboards where they had the driver had his name on a clipboard on the board. Joe came in, saw the job, but there was no name on it. So that meant the driver didn't take it. Joe got the limo and he drove it.
Oh, man.
He came, showed
What a story.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, shoot.
From that point on, Joe Frazier and I never separated.
That's awesome.
And, you know, and I stayed with him on through. His last fight was against Jumbo Cummings.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Was Joe Frazier's last fight. And after that, my job was to create situations off of his name.
I got you.
I didn't have a hard time with a name like Joe Frazier.
No, of course not.
Okay?
Who's Joe Frazier? I don't know.
It was probably almost one of the easiest things I ever had to do. You know, and it was, I mean, the people that I got to meet during my time with Joe Frazier, and the people that I would go into a place with Joe Frazier and Madonna. Well, first one, Mickey Rourke.
Oh, wow.
Would do this. Like, you know,
Don't hit
that shocked me that person was like, whoa, they're smoking Joe. Joe. And, I mean, from Queen Elizabeth,
wow,
Liz Taylor, Richard Burton, the people that he was friends with, you know, Clint Eastwood. I got to meet, and I know you didn't ask me this question, but it's a part of it anyway, but I got to meet one-on-one with Nelson Mandela.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh,
Will never. Nelson Mandela was a boxing fan, a true boxing fan.
Absolutely.
And when he got out of prison, his first wish was to meet Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali.
Yep.
Or maybe he said Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier.
Hey,
but that was what he wanted. That was what he wanted, and we got the phone call. And I'm still getting used to it. I'm like, is somebody on this phone telling me that Nelson Mandela is calling here and saying, I want to meet? And that's who it was. Wow. But it wasn't Mandela, it was his people. Wow. So we went on to New York at the United Nations, went downstairs in the basement. When we got there, you know, when Joe Frazier gets someplace, the red carpet comes out. The red carpet went downstairs under the United Nations. We went in a room, sitting in a room, and Joe had to go out of the room for something, because I told you Joe was a tinker. I don't know why the hell he left the room, but he did. And about 5 minutes later, Nelson Mandela walked in the room.
Wow.
That's what I said. I was like,
yeah.
Oh. And his guy came in behind him, but he walked in, and man. So we, you know, met him, and Joe actually gave him the championship belt, the one that he won March 8th, 1971.
Nice.
He gave him that belt, you know. So, and that kind of went on from there and turned into me becoming a coordinator and working in boxing and, you know, doing boxing events. And I did boxing events for everybody. The only person I never met was Lennox Lewis.
Okay.
And that's the only person I never met. I did Tyson's last 6 fights.
Wow.
I did Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Marvin Hagler.
Oh, wow.
Camacho.
Yeah, Camacho.
George Foreman, Larry Holmes, Ken Norton. Anybody.
That was in that, yep.
Period.
Wow.
Because I also worked with Don King
and
Cedric Kushner and Lou Duva.
Yes.
Because of Joe Frazier. So, you know, and I think it was Arturo Gatti and De La Hoya or somebody. I was doing a show in Vegas, and the guy that brought me in came to me and said, hey, man, this guy called me, and he's starting this organization, and he's looking for some good people. He want to put some people together, you know? And I didn't know who he was talking about and really didn't care. And I just, my motto was, you pay me and respect me, you got me.
Yep.
Plain and simple. And he said, well, the guy's going to come up here in between the weigh-in and the fight, because the weigh-in was one day, the fight was the next day. But I really didn't have a lot of time. So he came up about 6 or something, and we went to have a quick bite, and the guy was Dana White.
Oh my God.
And
the rest
he
is history there.
He was thin. He had hair. He didn't have a full head of hair, but he had hair.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Hey, man, I'm putting this thing together, and he was a promoter, because at the time he was promoting and managing, I think, Chuck Liddell and Tito, I think.
Okay.
But one way or another. And I said to him, I said, listen, man, you pay me and respect me, you got me. Plain and simple.
Absolutely.
He said, well, you know what? I'm going to have something the first of the year. And this was in October or November of 1999, I think. Don't quote me on those years. Yeah.
Hey,
because
that's
then
what Google's for, right?
Yeah. He came back in 2000 and said, listen, man, I got an event coming up in February or whatever. And boom.
Yeah.
That was it. UFC 30. That was my first one.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Jeez.
What question?
Yes.
Did you ever like watch Frazier when he practiced or trained or whatever? And if you did, what was the craziest thing you seen him do naturally?
Well, you know what? When I first met Joe, he had a group of people around him that wouldn't let me get near him.
Okay.
Okay? That wouldn't let a lot of people get near him, but Joe was a friend, and he liked me. So when they pushed me away, he pulled me in. Eventually, I ended up getting pulled in where we got rid of all them people.
There you go.
But I think the craziest thing when I say crazy, Joe had an unbelievable love of the sport and unbelievable conditioning.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Oh, yes.
When I say unbelievable, I've seen Joe hit a heavy bag and leave a dent in it.
Damn.
And see, back then, heavy bags were heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And had
No
sand
cushion.
or something in them, no cushion.
Nope.
And I saw him with that left hook.
Yeah.
Hitting that one, and because of the accuracy of the punch, and hit that bag and leave a dent in it.
Damn.
And I was convinced, that, man.
Yeah.
But,
Toughness
he
was definitely.
Yeah. He was definitely, regardless of what he did or how much hanging out, because he also loved to hang out.
Of course, you gotta be human too.
But he stayed on course and stayed in shape, man. And there was a time there that he got a little weak, but we all saw that fight.
Yeah.
With George. I think George put him down 6 times or something like that. But overall, man, he was unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Well, and
That's
looking at the record, like.
Oh yeah. Would you think that type of defense that he have in that bob and weave, when you first saw that, were you just like, what is this?
Well, no. And I'll
No.
tell you why. Because I'm from Philly.
Okay.
And everybody from Philly could fight.
Very true.
Everybody from Philly knew how to do this.
Yes.
Everybody from Philly knew how to do this. Even in the streets. Guys took their shirts off and did a little street fighting. And that's when you just hit what's called body punching. You didn't hit to the face. It was just to the body. So everybody was quick with their hands and slick with their style.
Gotcha.
So I never knew anything different. And Joe Frazier was right in there, but he was relentless with his. Instead of total bobbing and weaving, his was like this.
Yep.
He came instead of bobbing and weaving and going back and sliding
Like
off
90 degrees.
Right.
90 degrees, come back up. 90 degrees, come. I don't know how he did.
Right. He chugged forward. He chugged forward. And tell you something. He had a little thing where sometimes they would throw water on him in training.
Oh, okay.
He would get close enough to somebody, and he would hit him. And he said, when I hit him, when you hit somebody, they grunt.
Yes.
If you hit them hard enough. And he said he would hit them hard enough so they would breathe on him, and he would know where they were.
Oh man.
He didn't have to look up and look for him.
That's awesome.
Because when he hit him, he knew right where they were because he could feel it.
Wow. That's
He can
crazy.
feel. He can. But you know what? Think about it. Put it in your head, and think about hitting somebody breathing on you. If you're sweating, you can feel it.
Yeah.
So he said he didn't have to look up
No.
because he knew right where they were. Because he would throw it. He would throw it if it connected. They told him right where he was. And, yeah, I got you. Boom, boom.
That's insane.
That is dope.
I don't even know how to follow that. But like you said, it's something so simple as being able to hear it, you know, but hitting somebody hard enough where they breathe on you and you can feel it.
Yeah, well, you know what? If you trained for that, and you looked for that, you knew it, and you conditioned. You know, it's like when I transitioned from boxing to MMA, and I would see guys training in MMA, and when we would go to a hotel, you know, in the hotels and in a ballroom, they would close the what do you call them?
Like
whatever the walls were.
Yeah,
and they would close them for the rooms, but the guys would train up against that damn thing like they were against a cage.
Jeez.
And this was MMA, and I mean, I'm talking about, you know, anybody from Rampage to Chuck, you know, to whoever, you know, was on that wall training, and I think that Randy or somebody did a little more than Chuck, because Chuck's thing was knocking you out, so he didn't need to get you up against the wall.
Yeah.
He wanted you right in ornery like Joe, where he could just tag you. But the guys used to train, and I never knew why the hell y'all all up against that wall. You got to stay off that damn wall.
Yeah.
You know, because there was times I'd come in there, and the damn wall was off track. And the hotel people came to me and say, Mr. Burt, we got a problem. And they would take me in the room, and I'd see the wall look like it was coming down.
Oh, my God.
They had separated the wall from the top because, you know, when they roll around on the mat, they'd roll around for a while, and they'd get up and go stand against the wall, and the guy would run into them against the wall, and they were up against that wall for 15 good minutes, man. But that was their training, and that was how they worked out. And it was to assimilate being up against a cage.
Yeah. And
I didn't really understand that until, you know, getting in to MMA, but that was my transition, and man, that was something to see, because I had no idea about MMA or Muay Thai or grappling, jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I knew none of that, you know, and I always tell the story. I say, I knew Bruce Lee and Bruce Leroy. That's about as much as I knew. But then you must have watched this.
Yeah.
Who the man?
Heck yeah.
You know, so when I got to MMA and I would see these guys grappling and see how strong they were, and, you know, being a guy from boxing in Philly, you know, if I put my hands on you, it was because I couldn't fight. Okay? If I grabbed you to wrestle you, I couldn't fight.
Yep.
So I had to wrestle you. So I see these guys grabbing, and I'm like, man, they can't fight. In my head. But man, but then again, you know, I came into MMA when they was just starting. And when them guys got off that ground and they started to do the stand-up, man, they were doing like this. They was like cat fighting. I'm like, man, that ain't boxing. But I didn't know that stand-up was not necessarily a part of MMA and grappling. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But then those guys were developing their skills.
Yes.
And those guys went from this to this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Real quick, man. And I saw them develop. I saw the technical skill levels develop. I saw them go from just wrestling to wrestling and stand up and really hitting and striking and blocking punches and then shooting and grabbing somebody and throwing them down for a leg bar or something, you know. And so I saw that development, and it was a thing. It was something to see, man. And
Heck
you know,
yeah.
Well, I think for your first event being UFC 30, because Google is my friend right now because I don't remember all of them. You watched the fight between Evan Tanner and Tito Ortiz. That had to be like, oh my God, coming from boxing.
Yeah, well, you know what? It was, and I think I saw more blood on that card that night than I saw my entire career in boxing.
Jeez.
Yeah, because also, I mean, we had, and one thing was that when I saw Tito and Evan Tanner, and I saw how those guys, you know, I mean, that shit was intense, man. And you know, Tito was probably better at striking, and his little skills and his techniques was a little. Evan Tanner was tough.
Mm-hmm.
He was. Absolutely.
Evan Tanner was, you know, hit me, I'm gonna make you hit me again.
Yep.
And you know, it didn't matter. It was like that one round. Was it Bisbing and Brian Stan? Was it?
Yeah.
I mean, just stood there.
Yep.
I'm like, holy shit. You know? But yeah, that was unbelievable, you know. And I think BJ Penn, between 30 or 31, I think I also saw BJ Penn make his pro debut in one of them. Randy Couture was in one of them. But I did.
BJ Penn fought on the prelim card of UFC 31.
Is that what it was?
But you also had a main card with Couture, Carlos Newton, Chuck Liddell, Kevin Randleman, Pat Miletich, Pedro Hizzo. God.
Pat Miletich, my man, Pedro Hizzo. And actually, and you know what was really surprising to me, coming from boxing, and I told you I'm a hood rat, but I'm a hood rat with an education.
Hey, that's good.
and coming from boxing, most of the guys in boxing came from the street.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And very few, if I had 10 boxers, maybe one or two of them eventually went to college. There was no college. And when I came to MMA, all of those guys that were grapplers grappled in college and came from college. Carlos Newton was going to go to medical school.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the heck? He was gonna go to medical school. So the transition from guys that were straight out of high school to guys that were all in college and just kicking the S out of each other, man.
Yeah.
It was definitely, but to get started in a sport with those guys and they were all, not all of them, like BJ was his first and, you know, was his pro debut. One of them called Phil Baroni, I think, Mr. Badass.
Yes.
Badass. Well, on or supposed to be on, but everybody that was there wanted to be in the UFC.
Yes.
Wanted to be with that organization. So they all came to me with their eyes this big.
Very
regardless of who they were, man. I saw the newness in those guys, you know, that eventually are now legends, but every one of them, man, came on. And I mean, we did 30 and 31 back to back in Atlantic City, I think. I think we were in Atlantic City. And we did that, and it was funny. I'll tell you a quick story. I'm running out of time here.
No, but go for it.
Good.
We were in I think it was 30. I'm in the hotel in the lobby, and the bar was right across from the registration desk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but I met everybody. I always made it a habit. I did this with everybody. Every fighter that checked in, everybody that checked in, the first voice they heard and the last voice they heard was Burt Watson. From the time they got there till the time they leave. And when it was time to roll, baby, and time to get in that cage, they heard that good and loud.
Good.
You know, that we rollin', trust me, baby.
Yes.
So I'm in the lobby of the hotel, and there was Kevin Randleman, Mark Coleman, and I think Phil Baroni or somebody.
Jeez.
And there was one other guy, and there was this guy who was a fan, but he was telling them that this stuff wasn't real.
Last time he said that ever.
And they were not having
rest
it.
in peace.
Now they were not going to, because I was there. I was standing there and kind of back and forth, but I heard the commotion going on. But the bottom line was they ended up getting into it with this guy verbally, and the guy, they chased the guy, and the guy ran into the bathroom, and they chased him in there. And the guy ran into the bathroom and locked himself into the bathroom stall. Well, that didn't save him.
Nope.
Because I got the hotel people coming to me the next day with a bill for, I think it was $7,100 or something crazy, where they had ripped the stall.
I knew it.
Off. So him running in the bathroom. Now, it may have been $7,000 or $6,000, but it was close in that number.
Hey, that's a lot of money.
And that's because them guys ripped that bathroom stall out of there. But I personally, man, never had a problem with none of them guys, man. Kevin Randleman, that was my man. That was my man. Evan Tanner, that was my man. That was my man. Mark Coleman, I think I'm a little older than Mark Coleman, but that was my man. Okay? You know, Phil Baroni, still my man.
Yeah.
You know, never had, you know, any kind of problem. BJ Penn, still my man. You know, it was, like I said to them, I'm not going to let anybody else, I'll do it, but I won't let anybody else do it. But you're going to have to, you know, if I'm going to pull this plow, you're going to have to get on it, because we both can't pull it together.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was always a lot of fun, man, and nothing but genuine love and respect from everybody, man. Well, everybody.
I mean, you dealt with thousands of fighters over 14 years.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, how you, like, kept that energy all the time. Because there was never a time I ever saw you on TV where you were at 50% or 75%. Nope. You were always at 110 every single time. Absolutely. And those fighters, you know, I feel like over the last, you know, 6 years or so, I know everybody talks about your departure story, and I'm not here to talk about that because you've told that story so many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I feel like
people are saying, when I see articles when people say, when the UFC let you and Stitch go, man, they let the heart go, and the UFC didn't let me go. I left. I ran my mouth. You know, I let somebody say something to me.
Said I was disrespected. I didn't like how it was told
totally.
to me.
Totally, and I was gone.
And that was your thing from day one. You said you respect and pay me. We're good.
You respect me and pay me. You good. You got me. You know, and you know I was and I just did this and counted, but I've never really said a lot. And I said it the other day. I was talking to Glover, to Shear.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
And this was a week and a half ago.
Oh, before his fight or something?
This was just after his.
Yeah, just after.
Right after. Because I do a little thing sometimes now. I get on the phone with one of the Legends guy, and I do a legend to legend, so it's kind of a cool thing.
Well, and it's fitting for the show. You are a legend, but
yeah.
well, Vito Belfort was the one that started that stuff. So, but that's how it kind of worked out. But I figured it out that from around 1985 to today, my record is 356-0.
Ha! Nice.
I've done 356 fights.
Wow.
Never lost one guy. And within that 356 fights, I have walked from the dressing room to the cage 6,408 times.
Woo!
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is the second time I've ever said that, because I always kept a total of the fights, of how many fights I did. But that 356 was only if you averaged that each card had 9 fights on it.
Yeah, didn't include the fights in my
I've done, yeah, but I'm saying I've done very few cards with only 9 fights on it.
Yeah.
Especially in MMA, most of them are 12 and 13. In boxing, they're usually 10, 12. So that figure was an average of if you had 9 fights.
Oh, so you've even done more than 10.
6,408 times I walked to that cage. Now, I wasn't always yelling, "We rolling."
Yeah.
You know, at the beginning I wasn't. But then after I got tired and kept running back and forth and my feet swole up and my knees started hurting, I said, you know what? I am not, because I am perpetual motion.
Yes.
Just like right now, I am perpetual motion, in and out of the dressing rooms, in and out of the dressing room. And I would do that. And I would do that, and at the end of the night, for 2 days, I struggled because my feet and legs and all that. And finally I said, you know what? I am not running up and down that hallway no more. I am not running in and out of them dressing rooms no more. So I started yelling. I would run up and down the hall. We got 1 hour. We got 5 more to go, baby. We got a dirty 30 before we roll in that hole. We got 5 before we go live. And I would say that loud enough, and when it was time, I would say, it's time to go to work. It's time to go to work. And you know what that means when it's time to go to work? And I would hit it. We rolling, yeah, all night long.
Awesome.
And I did that. And the thing is, being from Philly, singing a little doo-wop, I knew that when you got in the basement or something, it echoed. Yep. So I would stand in the middle of the hall, and that shit resonated. And from that point on, it was no more walking out and into death. That's how We Rollin' came up. And
that's dope.
There was time I would do that. And I did it one time. I'm walking, and there was a guy walking into the room with some ice in a bucket. And I said, yo, he dropped the bucket in the ice, but I wasn't talking to him. Yo, we got 5 more to go, baby. 1 hour. Scared him to death, man. But you know what? And I don't know how my voice stayed the way it has over doing that for the 14 years.
That's not normal.
Yeah, but you know what? It came from here, and I still got it, and I'm still rolling, and I'm still holding on, baby. Heck and yeah. I'm a hold on till I can't roll no more.
You got it.
And to keep you in your time parameters, there's no better way to end it. That was amazing. Like, just plain and simple.
Yeah, absolutely. What I remember you saying you're a Western buff. Before we go, favorite Western film?
Yeah.
Favorite Western film?
Let's say top 3 if you can't say a favorite.
I liked all of the Good, Bad, and Ugly. I like those. But you know what? I liked Silverado.
Nice.
Okay.
I did like Silverado.
My personal favorite, Tombstone. Even though it wasn't a traditional Western.
You know what? Tombstone would probably go up in my top 3.
Okay.
Silverado and Tombstone, I did watch all the way through. Because, I'm your Huckleberry.
Yes.
You know?
You brought down the thunder.
You got me. And that's the best movie. Oh, who was the lead in Tombstone?
Kurt Russell.
Yes,
Kurt Russell?
that was the best movie I think Kurt Russell ever did.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, 100%.
In my opinion, and Val Kilmer. Okay?
Oh yeah, Val
I
Kilmer
think
studied
that
for that
was
role
the
with Doc Holliday.
that was the best that they ever did. And then
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
so but right now, you know, Gunsmoke, Half Gun Will Travel, Rawhide,
Yeah.
Wagon Train, Lone
Yeah.
Ranger. I still get that stuff on my television and I watch it
Right.
religiously.
Those are good.
Yeah, man.
Well, that was awesome. Well, from Matt Quiggin's Combat Press, Quiggin Out MMA, Nick Ramirez, the one and only Burt Watson. You gonna roll us out, Burt? I can't even stop.
Hey, man, you gonna make me do that? Are you really gonna make me do that? You gonna make me tell you that it's time to go to work, and when it's time to go to work, you know what that means, baby. We rollin'! Yeah! Oh, my
Yeah.
God.
Thank you, Burt.
I'm done.